All right, let's bring in Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent, to help set up the action today. All right, KG, it looks like the focus is not going to just be on the Fed today. We've got this news around trade talks, and it feels like there's something more official happening. Can you catch people up on where we are?
Yeah, there was a news report, and there was actually some announcements from the White House and some of the representatives that there will be a preliminary meeting between China representatives and U.S. representatives, specifically Scott Bessent, as well as the trade representative that we have, Jameson Greer, and they will meet in Switzerland. It sounds like that's going to happen over this weekend. So the market did actually rally off of that overnight. We did get as high as around 0.8% up for the E-mini S&P 500 here, and this is really going to be maybe the first start of a conversation, and the market probably is hoping that maybe we will see a ratcheting down of tariffs. Obviously, you probably won't see them removed until a final trade deal is actually done, but if we do see these tariffs kind of moving down a little bit, that could also ease some of the pressures when it comes to trade as well as shipping just in general here. So we are seeing some optimism. Obviously, there's also some other deals in the works here. We have the EU continuing to make some headlines around potential tariffs that they could levy on the United States if a trade deal is not done here. So it seems like we're making incremental progress for now. It looks like the market does appreciate that, and we'll see what actually comes from this from these conversations over the weekend. Now, Scott Bessent will be also speaking to Congress once again here today, so I'm sure there's going to be a couple of questions around that. The market will be focusing on that, and then obviously we have the FOMC meeting, and we'll hear what Jerome Powell has to say if he does even weigh in on these current trade negotiations.
It feels like a jam-packed agenda today and through the balance of the week, quite honestly, with Bessent set to speak, as you mentioned before, that House subcommittee today. What do you think is going to matter more today? What comes out of that, or what the Fed chair says?
I still think the Fed, I mean, there could be some news coming out from the White House. Who knows, right? That every day we get something different from them. So that can be market moving. But I think listening to Jerome Powell and really kind of getting his guidance or his outlook for the future and trying to gauge what the possibility is for a rate cut in June, I think is going to be really the main focus. Once again, it's a little bit difficult for the Fed right now to make the case to cut interest rates. If we did not have these trade talks or these this tariff situation going on, a maintenance cut could have been on the radar here for at least June, but obviously it throws a little bit of a wrench into those plans because of the potential inflationary impacts that we could have. So hearing his outlook, how the Fed is really trying to navigate these markets and what data sets they're really focusing on moving forward over the next couple of months, that might drive their decision. So ultimately the Fed is going to be the major focus. One thing to kind of note though, volatility is still actually fairly elevated. This is actually one of the higher, VIX that we've had going into a Fed meeting. So yesterday, when you're looking at some of the positioning and the options front, it does appear that the market is getting bulled up for hopefully a no news type of an event when it comes to Powell, and maybe that's going to be enough for us to try to continue this rally that we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so potentially no news, potential wait-and-see mode, as we often hear from the Fed. It will be interesting to see how he balances everything that's going on, given the slowing economic picture, and then, these rising worries about stagflation. So let me ask you for the technical levels you're looking out for the S&P 500. It feels like we're basically right in between 55 and 5,700. Where do we go from here to the upside and downside?
Yeah, this is going to sound very repetitive, but the first area of resistance, 5,700, and then there also is flows for 5,730 for today as well. I do want to note before I give you the downside, there was actually a pretty big trader yesterday that did pick up the 5,700 calls that expired today. They spent around $2.3 million. So there is a bullish bet out there from a trader that does believe that the market's going to rally potentially on the news today. And then to the downside, looking at 55.25. And so once again, we'll see how the market actually tries to react here. I would not be surprised if you actually do see a little bit of a consolidation or a range-bound trade up until the meeting, the presser, if you will, and that's probably when you're going to start seeing a lot more volatility in the market here. And hopefully that volatility is good ball for upside move.
Okay, and let's get into a mover that we're paying attention to today. AMD, off the back of their latest quarterly numbers, higher in the pre-market. Can you recap some of the numbers here, KG?
Yeah, well, you did see a nice little pop to the upside after this announcement from AMD. It has subsided here a little bit because of potentially some of the guidance that they had moving forward, but they did beat both on the top and bottom line. The revenue number came in at $7.44 billion. She was looking for around $7.12 billion, and the adjusted earnings per share once again exceeded the street's expectations, coming in at 96 cents. Street was looking for 93 cents here. When you're looking at the guidance, it did come in better than expected. They're looking for around $7.4 billion for the revenue guide. That's the midpoint there. Street was looking for around $7.25 billion. Now, when you're kind of looking at the business segments, data center did actually increase by 57% on a year-over-year basis, but it did actually miss the street's expectations. But what we really did see is the client segment smash the street's expectations by around $300 million. So if you look at client and gaming, combined, it came in at $2.9 billion, up 28% on a year-over-year basis. And that's really what drove a lot of this growth for the company for this quarter here. Once again, maybe a mixed guide when it came to the conference call, which kind of pulled back some of the enthusiasm after the initial move here. But overall, this is actually a pretty decent report. And they did highlight the impact that they're going to see with tariffs. They're highlighting $800 million of losses or write-down for Q1. We knew that. They did provide a filing for that about a week or two ago. And for Q2, they're expecting around $700 million when it comes to those losses, really impacting the GPUs for data centers going over to China.
So, Kevin, I'm noticing that several analysts are actually lowering their price targets on AMD off the back of this. Baird reducing to 140. They still outperform. Mizuho reducing their price target to 117 from 120. You got Raymond James lowering from 150 to 120 as well, still maintaining outperform. I only see one raise, TD Cowen raising to 115, maintaining a buy. With the lowering the price target, is that just kind of reflecting the landscape of where we are right now, or was there something out of the report where that makes sense?
Well, I think you're seeing several analysts, and it's not only just for AMD, it's for other companies, though. But when you come off fairly confident about the outlook moving forward, and we know that there's still a lot of uncertainty, I think there's a little bit of cautiousness when it comes to a lot of analyst price targets. So you might see those re-rate to the downside. Once again, they did highlight and identify the tariff impact, but you are seeing maybe more of a bullish tone from the company, especially when you're looking at the client unit. And I think the big question for analysts right now that we have to keep in mind was a lot of the client segment, the CPUs out there. Was that actually a pull forward effect, or is that true organic demand? I think that's another concern that maybe a lot of analysts may have. But AMD, once again, is confident. They didn't really mention any type of pull forward and a substantial drop off in orders for Q2. So I think that's why we're seeing the mix there.
All right. Well, shares higher right now in the pre-market. Thanks a ton. That's Kevin Green, Senior Markets Correspondent.